time where demand, right, outweighs supply. There's some financial gains that come along with that. But what happens if we have some sort of macroeconomic trends where we're seeing some sort of softening of demand, right? And what does that look like? And how do we prepare ourselves as businesses to build market share during that time, right? Continue to be profitable, be as efficient as possible, especially with the largest expenses we have at the dealership. So a lot of requests to come and speak about mastering the fundamentals. So I thought a good time to use our time today, the next 15 minutes, with the idea of back to basics. And I have this idea of really reintroducing you to Meta, right? You're probably very familiar, right, with the platform. You're familiar with the apps and services. You're probably advertising. You probably have some sense of what capabilities are. But I want to make sure that if you leave here today, you leave here with an understanding of really what are the capabilities, what is the potential of the platform. And honestly, if you leave us one thing, I want you to leave with an understanding of how you can bend and flex this platform to really meet your unique needs. And I say unique needs specifically because it's been very clear to me over the last year from talking to dealers that the challenges that we're facing, the headwinds that we're facing are somewhat unique. Right? So for every dealer I talk to where we have inventory issues, the next dealer says inventory is not an issue, it's building service space. The next dealer says I have to build additional service space, much to more service appointments. So the needs are varied. I understand this depending on where you are, what franchise you're associated with, what your community looks like. Right? Your needs are probably pretty unique here. So instead of me guessing, sort of interpreting, or telling you what you should do on the platform, I want to expand the way you're thinking about what's possible on the platform. Right? You know your business better than I do. You know what your unique needs are. I want you to take that understanding of the business and leave here with some ideas, some thought starters on potentially how you can bend and flex this platform to meet those needs. All right, so for some of us, it's inventory still, right? Again, depending on what franchise we're associated with, right? Day supply might be top of mind for us. Maybe it's not so much inventory levels, maybe we still don't have the right mix of inventory on our lot. But either way, we'll sort of put you in that inventory category. For a lot of us, it tends to be things around more about affordability concerns, right? Rising interest rates. What does that do to the consumer? Does that punt demand down the road, right? Versus purchasing now. So whether it's supply chain, whether it's some of these macroeconomic trends, we understand that you're facing some headwinds. But when we think about it, there's actually really good news here, right? If we're thinking about growing the business, if we're thinking about profitability, if we're thinking about growing market share, if we look back to the last economic downturn, what we find is that these environments are actually incredibly fertile grounds to grow the business, to grow market share in your community. So that'll be sort of what today's conversation is. We're talking about market share. Of course, we're probably talking about using advertising and marketing as a lever to grow market share. And it's not lost on me that as dealers, as business owners, we have lots of opportunities, lots of levers that we can pull in terms of marketing and advertising. Different messages we can put in market, different profit centers we can focus on, certainly different channels that we can use to reach our customers. And maybe to add to the complexity or add to the overall difficulty of that situation, the path to purchase has become incredibly bespoke and custom, right? We know it's not this linear path that we've thought of in the past. If we thought about the marketing funnel historically, right, people move from awareness to consideration to conversion. But we know that's not how people shop. We know that's not how advertising works. We know it's not really as a linear path as we think. It's custom, it's bespoke. People are moving in and out of the market. It becomes incredibly difficult for us to find the right message to the right consumer at the right time, right? That's going to be a thing we'll talk about today. So to make all this digestible, and to get to this idea of getting back to basics, really 4 parts to today's presentation that I want to walk through. And hopefully this is the story I can tell if I do it appropriately that sort of builds on itself, and we'll sort of all leave you with an understanding of maybe some ideas that we can adjust the way we're executing the platform and take more advantage of the platform itself. So first we're going to kick it off, we're going to talk about the customer. What do we know about today's customer? Who are they? What do they want? What message resonates with them? What are their expectations from us as a business? Because we have an understanding of who the customer is, we then have an understanding of what message we're going to be able to put from them. That's step 1, right? The right message. Then we're going to look at the Meta platform specifically. We're going to look at Facebook, Instagram, Messenger. And that pretty much makes up what auto advertising looks like. How are those platforms changing? Right? How are they evolved? How are people using the platforms differently? Where are they spending their time, right? So the right message in front of the right audience. How do we find that audience? Then we're going to move into what I'm calling the power of Meta. And I'm still sort of think through what the right phrasing here is. But I don't think we've done a terribly good job of really explaining what's going on behind the scenes, right? Behind the scenes in terms of When an ad gets delivered to someone, what's going behind the scenes here in order to decide when that ad should be shown? Or when you see a piece of content on Facebook or Instagram, what's going on behind the scenes to decide who should show that content? Right, spoiler alert, it's artificial intelligence, it's machine learning. We call it our delivery engine. I'll use those three terms today so we're synonymous with each other. I'll move back and forth. But we're doing a good job of really branding ourselves as an AI company. But the reality is AI powers an incredible amount of the work that we do behind the scenes here. So appreciation for the power of Meta, appreciation for this delivery engine that's making real-time decisions on your behalf so we're showing incredibly relevant and personalized content to the right people. So if you know the right message, you know where to find those people at the right time, or excuse me, the right message, where they're at, and then finally at the right time, right? Specifically when they're in market, specifically when there's a need, they have a service need, right? Or specifically when they're looking to trade in a vehicle, for example. If we do those three things appropriately, right, then we kind of get to the fourth phase here where I'm saying putting it all together. Well, what does that mean for us in the auto space? And hopefully we can start to have some thought starters where we can start to really understand different ways that we can sort of capitalize on the platform. Let's just have an appreciation for those first three sections. Fair enough? All right, so let's dig in. So first we're going to kick it off looking at the customer. What experiences today's auto shoppers expect from dealers? And I think a good way to start here is to really understand, before we understand what they expect from us, is really dive into who is today's auto customer. Like, who are your customers? We hit an important milestone about 3 years ago, where millennials for the first time overtook baby boomers as buying the most new vehicles in the market, right? About a third of all vehicles that year. And since 2020, both the millennial cohort, that generation, as well as Gen Z, were the only two generations that continue to grow their new vehicle market share. So we've got a younger generation, right, buying vehicles. And of course, this I think makes very sense. If you look at the census data off on the right, not surprisingly, about half of the total population in the U.S. is that millennial generation or younger. That's basically 40 years or younger. And of course, that percentage only continues to grow, right, as that, that's how population works. And if we understand that millennials are buying a third of all your cars, and that market share continues to grow, and Gen Z's market share of what they're buying continues to grow, we have to have an appreciation for the way they shop for vehicles, the way they shop for dealers, the way they discover dealers is different too, right? This is an evolving sort of consumer behavior. Not surprisingly, digital social plays an outsized role, right? So roughly 60% of millennials and Gen Z expect to discover your dealership on social. Right? Discovery is an important term here because there's a trade-off when you're using the platforms, whether it's Meta, whether it's Twitter, whether it's TikTok, whether it's Snapchat. Right? The trade-off is that you use this app, you get access to the apps and services for free in exchange for what? Exposure to ads, right? But the expectation is, especially in 2023, is that those ads are additive to your experience. They're incredibly relevant. They're timely. Right? They align with your current shopping behaviors. They align with your current interests. Right? So the expectation that these platforms are exposing their customers to new brands that make sense to them, brands that delight them, brands that make an awful lot of sense for where they are on their current purchase journey. So if a majority of this generations are expecting to discover your dealership on social, it probably shouldn't be a surprise. They're also evaluating your dealership on social. Right? And when I say evaluation, I mean this goes well beyond just sort of ratings and reviews. This is what does your social presence look like? What are you posting? Right? What type of content are you posting? What is the experience that things are going to be able to get from what the content you're posting? Right? Do you have an appreciation for what that shopping experience is going to look like? I think to sort of sum it up, because it gets complicated for sure. Like today's consumers want two things, right? The one, they want an immersive shopping experience. They want this blending of the offline and the online world. They want access to detailed information. They want to be an incredibly informed consumer before they actually walk into the lot. Right? So they want access to as much information as possible so they can feel confident and comfortable with the purchase. And two, they expect a connected shopping experience. Right? This is the big one that continues to grow. They expect to have access to your brand. They want to reach out. They want to have customer service. They want to talk to you in real time. They want to ask some questions right before they pass over PI, before they submit a lead, and before they walk into the dealership lot. We go a little deeper here. A couple of key stats and try to think through how do these map back to kind of what we're already doing so we can feel comfortable with some of the decisions we're already making, right? So 64% want easy access to more detailed product information, right? To me, this talks about our website, right? So this is certainly specifically, we're talking about VDPs, we're talking about the information we're providing there, but to me this goes beyond that, right? product information. Maybe this is F&I information, right? This is information about what the overall experience is going to look like. Are we giving our customers as much content they can absorb to make them live more comfortable before they come in? 2, 41% want an immersive experience that replicates the physical store. Right? Digital retailing. And I don't mean necessarily just the soup to nuts, the A to Z process of actually e-commerce, but this could be as simple as, right, can they appraise their vehicle? Can they value the return when they come in? Take that one step they would normally do the physical store out of it. Right? Can they get pre-approved? Can they educate themselves on the F&I process, for example? Right? Are there any things that we can do along the way that are going to replicate what they would normally do in store, to get that done online, to make them feel A, more comfortable, and B, cut down on some of the in-store activity? 3, 60% want a great customer support experience. Probably no surprises here. This is Messenger, this is chat. Right? Heard quite a few presentations. In fact, Kevin, I think you mentioned this yesterday, which was removing forms from the website, right? We've heard dealers in the last few years sort of not threaten, but announce that that's where they were going, announce that this is what the direction they'd like to go. We've heard some dealers announce that they've actually accomplished this. You know, why are we doing this? Well, we're doing this because we have an understanding of what our consumers want, the experience they want. Right? We've got stats and stats and stats that show that consumers feel more comfortable working with a brand they can chat with. And we're likely to purchase from a brand they can chat with. They prefer to chat over phone calls, over certainly over emails. So what does your messenger chat experience look like? This goes beyond certainly the website, right? This is, are you allowing your customers to chat with you, right, through the other sort of channels that you have open, through your advertisements? And finally, back to this idea of discovery, 48% want to find brands that they haven't heard about that align with their shopping needs. Right? This is important. They expect to be shown ads that make sense to them. They expect to see ads that are relevant. Right? So what is our store branding strategy? Right? Are we meeting the customers where they're spending their time? Are we meeting our customers where they're expecting to find out about you? And if we are doing that, what's the message we're putting in front of them? Right? Is it price and product-centric messaging only? Right? Or are we talking about the experience that our dealership offers? We're talking about what's going to differentiate us from the dealership down the street. We're also seeing the seismic shift in priorities. Right? What do customers care about most? What's going to make them loyal to the dealership? Right? We're talking a lot about lifetime value this week. We're talking about profitability, which those things go hand in hand. We spend an awful lot of money on getting a customer, right? Awful lot of money. Right? It's more expensive to acquire a new customer than it is to keep a customer. But what are we doing to keep the customer, right? So what's really driving loyalty here? Well, we ask consumers. We ask consumers who purchased a vehicle from a dealership and service from that dealership. We ask a question from people who purchased a vehicle from a dealership and purchased a second vehicle from that dealership. So what made you go back? What makes you loyal to a particular dealership? And maybe this is not going to be surprising to a lot of us, because I think we're seeing the shift sort of agnostically outside of the industry. But a vast majority of the responses, 4 of the top 5, are all centered around the overall experience they offered, right? So how good was the customer service? How easy was the purchase process? These are things that they're telling us that are driving loyalty. These are the reasons why they're buying a second vehicle from their dealership. We actually don't see price pop up until number 5 on the list, with only about a quarter there of respondents saying it's the competitive price that makes them loyal to that particular dealership. Right? So if we understand how important experience is, like, are we talking about the experience? Are we promoting the experience we have? We went a step farther. We asked those same percentage of respondents who said that they were loyal to a dealership. We said, you understand that if you stay loyal to a particular dealership, that means you're going to pass up offers and incentives from other OEMs and from other dealers. Majority, 51%, go, yeah, we get that, and we're okay with it, right? Again, because the premium they're placing on the experience they're getting, trumps some of the financial, short-term financial gains. And again, this probably shouldn't be a surprise to us. We sort of zoom out, that's all auto-specific data. This is sort of data looking at the industry at large, so the back of like an industry agnostic view. And not only are we seeing that this sort of theme of experience over price permeating all industries, but we're seeing it only continue to grow. My favorite stat there is the one in the middle, right? 88% of people are now saying that the experience is as important as the actual product or service itself. So our closing section was sort of the thought starter, what I want us to take away from this. And really, this first section here is, are we promoting the shopping experiences that separate our dealership from our competitors? If we have an appreciation for how important this message is, are we talking about it? If we have an understanding of what it is, right, what makes your dealership unique? And if we do have appreciation for that, are we actually promoting it? section 2, so we're building the story here. So section 1 here is, do we have an appreciation of the right message? What message is going to resonate with today's auto shopper? I think we got a good handle on that, right? 2 is look at where we want to show this message. Right, so looking at user behavior, really, how has this changed? How has user behavior across Meta families, apps, and services really changed over time? And first, I want to start with just the numbers, right? Because I've kind of shied away from some of these numbers over a period of time. We got down into the strategy of the platform. But I've been getting more requests or more comments around, yeah, maybe you're growing, but are you growing in the markets, the incredibly competitive segment that we're looking for? Are you growing in that Gen Z segment? And the reality is, I'll bring the numbers back, and the reality is we continue to grow, right? So 3.8 billion people use one of our apps and services every single month, right? That's a half the world's population uses one of our apps and services. If we zoom into the United States, the numbers at the bottom, at 238 million on Facebook, 220 million on Instagram, 183 on Messenger, 85 million on WhatsApp, right? So roughly a little bit more than 90% of online adults in the United States, touch one of our services on a regular basis, Facebook, Instagram specifically. But not only growing sort of in our aggregate numbers, we're also growing in penetration of some incredibly competitive segments, like your 18 to 24-year-old segment. Right, we spent the open day session talking about millennials and talking about Gen Z, as a growing market share of in-market purchases. We actually have one of the largest penetration of that audience as well. 64% of Gen Z are on Instagram. That actually beats out YouTube, that beats out TikTok, that beats out Snapchat. I don't think we talk enough about that. So we're sort of shifting our gears now, getting a little more aggressive with our numbers here. And all in, the average person in the United States spends about 13 hours a month on one of our apps and services.
So, Adam, are you seeing a decline on the 18 to 24-year-olds on Facebook year over year?
So all year we saw, yeah, that's a great question. We did see a decline, and now we're actually seeing the reemergence again. Yeah. As you can imagine, Kevin, this is an incredibly, there's teams dedicated to this piece alone, right? It's an incredibly important part for us. We're not satisfied with just Instagram being the leader of that, although we're obviously certainly proud of that, but also really figuring out how do we bring Facebook back into that community. So yeah, Facebook numbers are up. 57% of Gen Z are now on Facebook, and we are seeing those numbers start to rise back up, although we did see a decline certainly in the last few years.
Where are these statistics coming from? Where are they aggregated from? Strictly Meta, or are you going outside the Meta platform?
Yeah, so a combination. So all of your numbers on the left are internal numbers. All of your numbers on the right are coming from external sources. So not only is the platform growing in size, but how people are using the platform has changed significantly as well. Right? If we go back as little as even about 7 years, 7+ years at this point, right? A vast majority of the time what was shared on our platform was really just text, right? That's where we started. Right, text, and then we moved into photos as our devices and our smartphones became more capable, right? Technology, the cameras grew. Moved into photos, and today I can tell you we're clearly in a phase of video, right? 50% of all time spent on Facebook is spent engaging in video content. But I offer up the story of how we move from text to photos to videos, because as quickly as we move through those 3 tranches, we're already moving into a 4th phase, which I'm calling immersive phase of here. Which is we're already seeing people engaging with augmented reality units, right? OEMs buying augmented reality units on our platform. So you also have these more immersive experiences on your 2D devices, right? So it's a story I tell because if we're still stuck in text, and photos only, we're missing out on all the engagement that we have when people are spending their time on our platform, right? If we don't have video as part of our arsenal, we're not showing up when people are watching video. And if we don't have video, then we're falling behind as we sort of move into some of these more immersive formats.
Is the video just like on Reels, or is it within the feeds?
So the stat in terms of 50% of time spent on Facebook spent in video, that's inclusive of all video across the platform. And to your point, right, that's video in feed, that's video in stories, that's video in Reels, that's video in Watch. Lots of different places across the platform where video can materialize. Yeah. So the story here is I want us to get comfortable with an understanding of really, A, where people are spending their time on their platform so we can meet them there appropriately. And two, what are the capabilities of the platform? What ad types do we have? What ad units? What kind of creative can you capitalize on? Because the reality is we're seeing an awful lot of engagement across some of these commerce tools, as we'll call them. So what messaging, right? We talked about, from a consumer's perspective, how important messaging is. On the Facebook platform, we're seeing over 1 billion people message a business every single week, right? So we have people want a message, they expect to be able to get that message. Our platform gives you the capability to message a business. Are you meeting them there? Are you taking advantage of that? Two, something like leads, again, it's commerce tools, right? This is not just a display platform. We have some pretty robust tools that you can use, some robust ad formats that you can use. One of those is the lead generation tool, right? Lead forms. In the fourth quarter, we saw 1 million lead form submissions from lead ads every single day. Question?
Yeah, so we utilize a couple of the lead generation tools on Facebook. What we're finding is that it's a little difficult in terms of the setup. So Meta requires you to use lead bridge in a lot of the CRMs instead of having it be a direct one-to-one relationship. And unless you set up lead bridge correctly, or you're lucky enough to get somebody from their support team, it can be a mess where you're not actually seeing where the leads are coming from. Do you have any plans to clean up that process so that way it's a more direct process?
I got a big question on that one. Is Meta ever going to be dealer friendly or dealer specific group that is helping us? I gotta tell you, our Meta account rep sucks.
Okay.
Two of them fired both.
Let's.
Sorry.
Okay, I'm happy to chat with you afterwards. I can't have this turn into a medicine or sucks conversation, right? I just can't. In fact, we probably should start with, I'm happy to answer all your questions. Not specific sport-related questions, right? We can chat later on for sure.
But the question still stands, is Meta going to be going, are they gonna have a dealer specific where we can actually go directly to a Meta specialist to help with these problems? I mean, the CRM connectivity, honestly, if you don't have a third-party integration, you're SOL.
So I'm kind of hearing two parts here. You sound like, again, we're still focused on the support piece here. The question around, the original question was help me understand that. Yes, there's two ways to extract your leads out of lead ads, right? Either you can download them directly. That doesn't make a lot of sense for a business where we have an expectation of sort of real-time engagement with those leads, right? Or you can extract those leads from the API and pass them to whatever source it is, in our case, it's going to be the CRM. In most cases, if you're going to be going that path, which is the desired path, again, just for ease and the overall customer experience, you probably work with a partner to help you extract those leads out and pass it over. Was the question, where was the friction part of that question?
So LeadsBridge, which is the, I guess, the preferred partner of Meta, is very unreliable, very wonky, and if, for whatever reason, let's say that you have your dealership and you were the one that set it up, you have all this information and you leave, unless you have that information, you can no longer change the bridge with every month that passes. If you're doing month over month ads, you have to reconnect the bridge each time. If you don't, those leads don't go through.
Is this a lead, like a LeadsBridge specific question?
No, this is very much a Facebook experience thing because let's say that we're even doing messaging ads, and I don't need to get into the weeds, but we're doing messaging ads. We could set up that form, and at the end of it, you would expect all of that information to go into the CRM. Unless you have that set up correctly, that type of ad set up correctly, it just lives there, and we know how busy life is at a dealership. There could be somebody who's very much interested in insert vehicle that they never get reached out to because somebody doesn't know to go into the messenger and double check.
Okay, I definitely want to move on here. We'll come to me afterwards and talk about this because it sounds like the conversation is around, again, the ease of extracting those leads from our system into the system that you want to work at, which is CRM, right? And that's a fair enough comment. And then video, like we talked about. So back to the ad formats here, right? And then video, I kind of hit these stats already. But 50% of all time on Facebook, and that's went to video. 20% of time on Instagram alone is spent in Reels, and that's a fairly new feature. In fact, Reels, since launch of time on Instagram is actually up 24%, right? So we're thinking about where people are spending their time. It's obviously spending their time engaged in video. The question is, are we showing up with those experiences? Kind of a good example of this, we took a segment of dealers who were running automotive inventory ads only. So if you're not familiar, this is catalog driven, this is dynamic ads. They're really based on in-market shoppers, showing them vehicles that make sense for an in-market user. This is a matchmaking product that really helps dealers find and prospect outside of what we're targeting audiences. And we took those dealers who were only running that one type of campaign, focused on one strategy, right? Where those ads were only showing up when those ads are eligible to show up. And we had them layer on 2 additional creative types. One, video, right? So now we're gonna show up in all those video types we talked about, whether that's feed or stories or reels. And 2, we have them layer on a lead generation tactic. That was either click into a lead ad format or click into Messenger, depending on their preference. Just layering on those two additional creative types more than triple the reach of their campaigns, right? Because again, they weren't reaching people who were watching video before because they weren't showing up the video. And they weren't showing up to people who were likely to submit a lead before or engaging with those lead generation tools because they didn't have the format that looked there. So my second part started here is, as we close out section 2, is an appreciation for the platform continues to grow. It continues to grow in the segments that we care about, right? Certainly the growing segments that we care about as dealers. And three, we have a robust set of tools, of commerce tools, or ad types that you can leverage. So the question is, are we creating content that capitalizes on those tools, right? In short, the really takeaway is, are we playing around with video? And I sat in a TikTok session yesterday, right? And I think when I think about video, I think like a brand like TikTok or a brand or a feature like YouTube Shorts is all actually really important for us, right? Because you don't need to create video for Reels. You don't need to create video for TikTok, right? These are all vertical, short-form video formats. If you spend your time creating for one of those formats, right, make sure that video scales across those platforms, YouTube Shorts, TikTok, right, Reels. Probably shouldn't be catching Reels and YouTube Shorts, TikTok and YouTube Shorts will be above. The reality is, if you're going to spend the time to create some of that video content, know that you have quite a few sort of avenues to distribute that content. And then section 3. So, what message resonates with our customers? Where are our customers spending their time? Now the question is, how do we get that message for the right customer at the right time? Right? And when we do that, in this case, it's really under the subject of the power of Meta. Right? How does Meta help advertisers find those right customers? The needles in the haystack is really what we're talking about here. And the short answer is we use the AI. We use artificial intelligence, we use machine learning. I'm going to refer to it as our delivery engine. And what powers our delivery engine is really 2 sides, right? The signal pool that makes up how we make decisions on when to show an ad to someone, when we show a piece of content to someone, where, is really based on data that we have and data that you have. Right? On our side, this is obviously a simplistic view, but on our side, we have a tremendous amount of signal and data about an individual user, right? We have demographic, psychographic, geographic data. Right? What pages do they like? What type of content are they engaging with? Right? What types of creative are they engaging with? What does their activity across the platform look like? A really simple one for us. Are you looking for vehicles inside a marketplace? Pretty good signal for us if they're in market, right? Then we have all the data that you as the dealer, you as the advertiser provide, right? So I mean, this is probably signal from your website, your pixel signal, right? What activities are happening on your site? Right? What actions are people? Are people converting? What do those people who do convert look like? Right? So you potentially have audience data you provide us. Maybe this is CRM upload. Maybe you have some sales data, you have some offline data you upload. All of this goes into our signal pool to understand what do we know about this customer that we can use to help you as the advertiser. Right? What do we know about this customer so we can make smart decisions on what to show and when. And when we put those sort of 2 pools together, right, then all of a sudden we start to find those needles in the haystack, right? Does this person look like someone we like, but are they in market? Right? Does this person live in our community? But do we think they want to value their trade-in? Does this person live within 50 miles of our dealership? But do we think they're going to be right for the service offer? Right? Those are the levels of conversations that are happening behind the scenes using machine learning.
Hey, Adam, are you aware of, are there any large automotive groups right now using the CDP and sending you that first-party data to target? Because you're kind of doing it a roundabout way. This would be on steroids. I'm just curious.
Yeah, the answer is no. It's funny, it's certainly something I've been talking about. Certainly the CDP conversation has bubbled up. We haven't seen anything outside of theory and desire sort of translate into execution yet, not that we're aware of. Yeah. But to that point, that's exactly right? I mean, if you think about the platform, we are a user login known platform. So any information that you know about your users that's beneficial, right, you can pass to us, we can find that user, and get 90+% of online adults on the platform, right, and then allow you to execute a right message to that user. How powerful is the AI? Right? I think a couple different ways to think about this. One, if you're on Facebook, you're on Instagram, right now in your feed, about 20% of everything you're seeing is content that's delivered by our AI. Meaning, this is content that maybe isn't a brand you follow, a page you follow, or a person that you follow, but we know something, right? We know that this is content you might be really interested in, right? You're an enthusiast of mountain biking, this is mountain biking content that makes sense, right? Or you're in market for a vehicle, and you think this type of content makes a lot of sense, right? So almost about a fifth of all the content you see in your feed across the platform is decided by this machine learning in the back end, right? If you feel like your feed is incredibly relevant to you, that's what's powering this. Another way to look at really the power of this industry-leading AI is looking at the performance of it, right? So on your y-axis over here, we have percent of people who shared or posted content. On the x-axis, we have percent of people who clicked on an ad last month, right? And you can kind of see where that is in terms of engagement, right? Incredible amount of people are posting content and sharing content. Why would you share content? You find it funny, you find it relevant, you find it meaningful. Why would you click on an ad? You find it relevant, you find it meaningful, you find it beneficial, right? So the delivery engine is making sort of real-time decisions on making sure both content, organic or ads, paid, are incredibly relevant to you. And the result of that is a lot of content being shared, a lot of ads are being clicked on. This came from our last earnings call, but this is sort of the ad review. You asked me what's the power of AI on our platform? Well, number of ad impressions in the last quarter were up 23%. Number of conversions to the platform were also up 20%. The average cost per ad was down 22%. Right? We only get to these type of levels in aggregate. We talk about hundreds of millions of advertisers on the platform without the artificial intelligence, machine learning, and those real-time decisions on what to show and when. So to take advantage of this machine learning on the platform, you have to release some of the controls. You have to tell the system, hey, I'm gonna let you make some of these decisions on my behalf. Right? If you find yourself in the audience and you're going, well, I'm running ads on Facebook, but we're targeting only. Well, you're not really letting the machine learning work for you, right? You're telling the system, these are the only people I care about, show these ads to these people, right? If you're running ads and you've got a series of sort of target segments built in there, people who like this, people who engage with this, people who are interested in this, right? Again, you're sort of reducing the system's ability to make decisions on your behalf, right? What we encourage you to do at this point, which feels sort of, the antithesis of what we've sort of learned over time, which is sort of open it up, right? Let the system have access to a broader audience, but let it find the people in that broad audience that we think are incredibly beautiful or likely to take the action that we care about. And when you do that, when you reach a new audience, there are also some sort of downstream impacts that I think are important for us. One, we see reaching a broader audience actually drives engagement off platform, right? Organic search results up 84%. Reach a broader audience, we find new people, those people are more likely to search in there, right? We don't have the person, it's just complicated, they're getting out, they're on your site, they're searching, right? So we're driving more organic search that way. Two, we're driving additional traffic to your site, so you're gonna fuel your own retargeting audiences, 4x, right? We see retargeting audiences go up 4x when we sort of let the system make more decisions on your behalf. Reach more people, find that prospective audience for you. And then finally, what we actually care about is conversions. Right, we see incremental 18% in sales. Right, we're going to find additional people that you may not know of, right, that you may not have in your audience segment, that may not have already visited your website, that if they convert, we can find those people on your behalf. Another kind of a good way to look at this is a case study from an OEM. They were running a national test drive campaign, really looking at supporting a new model launch, and they had a segment audience they thought made a lot of sense. Right, so they were trying to test drives from this pre-built segment audience. When they removed that segment, when they let our system find people who were likely interested in that model, interested in signing up, likely to submit the lead, so 51%. So finally, the third part here is, are we capitalizing the capabilities of the platform to find and convert your customers? right? Are you leveraging machine learning? We had a dealer call us and ask us, are we using machine learning? Right? This is sort of what spurred this conversation. They go, man, I don't think we do enough talking about really what's happening behind the scenes here. I don't think we do enough job of explaining how AI is making decisions on your behalf and makes the platform incredibly efficient for you. So yes, you're probably using machine learning. Yes, you're probably using AI. Right? That's the platform. All right, so let's close and put it all together. Right? How can I leverage that to grow my dealership market? That's what we started today, right? That's certainly where we like to end it. I'd like to end it with the statement I sort of opened it with. If you leave with nothing, I want you to understand that you can bend and flex the platform to meet your unique needs. Right? So I don't know what your unique needs are. If you're in the audience thinking, I want to branch into new markets, maybe I want to drive increased needs. Certainly sales probably fall in that category. Maybe I want to drive more service appointments. We want to drive parts and accessory sales. Right? Whatever that unique need is, you can bend and flex this platform to meet that need. But we're only as good as the marketing, right? We're only as good as what sort of goes into the marketing tools. And I think of this as an equation. And here's how I've been describing it lately. Like, we both are going to bring something to the table here. Right? So what does Meta bring to the table? Well, A, we're going to give you access to massive size and scale. Right? 238 million people in the United States on Facebook, 90% of adults in the United States are on one of our apps and services. We're spending 13 hours a month on our apps and services. The platform gives you access to essentially your audience, right? Your community, the people you care about. So we bring the size and scale, we bring the audience to the table. Two, we bring the commerce tools, right? So we bring dynamic product ads, we bring video ads, we bring messenger ads, we bring lead ads, we bring other commerce tools you might want to use. And three, we let you borrow or lease industry-leading machine learning while you're running your campaign, right? You get to leverage that existing intelligence to find the right people. We need a few things immediately as the advertiser, as the dealer. So one, we need your customer knowledge, right? Kind of a vague term. This could be as specific as actually uploading some information. This could be uploading offline events. But I think the way I think about this is, at the very least, this is the pixel on your website, right? This is you telling the system, this is what's happening. This is what I care about. This is the attribution of what is happening. And we need to know those things. You need to bring to the table your great creative, right? You understand your industry, you understand your market, you understand your community. What message is going to resonate? We started today's session talking about creative, we're talking about experiential creative, right? So you bring the creative to the table. Maybe it's your inventory feed, maybe it's offers, incentives, maybe it's video like we talked about. But you need to bring the creative. And finally, most importantly, you need to bring your business goals, right? You need to tell us what matters to you and what the objective is. Right? So we bring the audience, we bring the commerce tools, we bring the industry-leading AI, you bring your creative, you bring your measurements, your attribution, and you tell us what you care about. And that's how this platform becomes a service platform. That's how it becomes a vehicle acquisition platform. That's how it becomes a sales driving platform, a lead generation platform, a traffic driving, a branding platform. Then it flex to meet your needs. Right? Dealership profitability is driven by the success of multiple profit centers. Right? We get this. Right? Sales, vehicle acquisition, service, parts and accessories, finance and insurance, collision center. Right? Okay. If you're sitting in the audience, you're saying, these are the things I want to focus on. This is the parts of the business that I need to focus on to drive profitability. When we look at data across the platform, we look how the average dealers are really investing on the platform, we're always focused on this one profit center. We're always looking at new and used sales. In fact, if we look across all of North America, 83% of dealer investment is on automotive inventory ads alone. Right? So we're focused on sales or potential leads, and we're driving a product and price-centric message. Not a lot of diversification in the market, a lot of opportunity, a lot of white space. Right? So 83% of investment is on AA alone, focused on one profit center, focused on one type of message. And the average dealer only reaches about 17% of the in-market audience. In-market, specifically auto in-market audience, right? 17% of people in their backyard who we've designated as being in-market based on all the activity, all the signal that we see on our platform. So that information, really what I could encourage us is this idea of diversification. Again, you have your unique challenges, you have your unique needs, you know your business. So help this platform bend and flex to meet your needs. Right, so vehicle acquisition. We saw an awful lot of this sort of launch in the last year and a half. This makes a lot of sense, right? It could be as simple as we'll buy, you don't buy from us. Maybe you've got a KPV fair purchase price or an ICO type message. Maybe you have a we need CarMax or we need CarMax offer, whatever that is, right? Do we have a simple vehicle acquisition message? Do we have appraisal tools on our site? Do we have valuation tools on our site? And then we can be your vehicle acquisition platform, right? We can be your flywheel that drives the inventory platform, or to your store. Two, on the sales side, we've always focused on new reviews. That's sort of the foundation. That makes an awful lot of sense. If you ask me, Adam, where should I first tell them go? I would tell you that's where should go. So no issues there. But do we have distressed inventory on the platform? Do we have inventory that we need to move because of potential margin erosion? We'll put specific dollars behind that. Right? Do we have digital retailing tools that we know convert really well? We want to drive people directly into those tools. Right? Are we being incented to drive pre-orders? Right? Lots of different things we can think about in terms of expanding what we think about sales of these on the platform. For the service, we certainly can't have a conversation around dealership profitability without addressing the back of the house. Right? Are you driving service scheduling? Are you promoting your service offers? Right? Do you have service bay availability at certain times throughout the week that you want to focus on driving offers in line with those booking at those times? Like, we can be a service platform for you. And finally, on the front of branding, again, we opened the day talking about really the importance of where are these younger generations discovering your brand? Where are they expecting to evaluate you? Where are they expecting to find you? Right? Are you meeting them there? Right? Are you pushing out a message that aligns with what they're expecting? So putting it all together, I kind of want to walk through this. I hope this we went through the section on AI. Hope this sort of builds this foundation of appreciation for what's going on here. So I asked you, I said, hey, you bring something to the table. What do you bring? You bring creative. Okay. You bring your business goals, right? So you come to me and say, Adam, vehicle acquisition. I want to focus on that. I need inventory. Okay. That's our business goal. What's going to be our conversion? Well, we want to drive these for our appraisal tool. Okay. Now we've got what we're going to consider to be a success. Right? Creative. Okay. Is this going to be a we buy even if you don't buy from us type message, right? Potentially you have something a little bit more substantial than that. So you brought everything you need to the table. We've got creative, we've got a business goal, you know what success looks like. What's going to happen is when you launch this campaign, every time that ad begins to show, behind the scenes, our machine learning, our artificial intelligence is going to look for two things. It's going to ask itself, what's the likelihood that this person is going to click on this ad, go to this appraisal tool, and submit a lead? And it's going to ask itself, what's the likelihood that this person is going to view this ad and see this ad as being beneficial, additive, relevant, right? What's going to happen is every time your ad shows, it's going to make assumptions on those two things and learn. Assumptions and learn. Assumptions and learn. Right? We call this our learning phase. Roughly about 20% of your advertisement is spent in learning phase. For the system to get enough signal and enough understanding of what really is going to perform, what consumer it looks like this makes a lot of sense to, so they can run for the 80% of the time wide open, finding you people who are likely to ship the vehicle. Right? So this is how we bend and flex. Right? Because our system, no matter what we put into here, is going to try to answer those two questions. And it's going to get better today, it's going to get better tomorrow, and the day after that. And that's how we start finding those deals in the haystack, independent of what your strategy is. All right. So I close it out. A couple of next steps. So one, the takeaways here. One, we started with talking about messaging, right? So differentiate the brand. Right? If you find yourself in that 83% category, all we doing is price and inventory focused messaging on our platform, think about supplementing that with something that talks about the overall experience. Supplement that with something that's going to speak to what we know today's consumer is considered to be incredibly relevant and important. Two, leverage the available creative options. If you find yourself only doing text and photos on the platform, right, have an appreciation for how much video consumption there is. Probably don't need to sell you on that, right? So let's get into the video space. Let's make sure we're showing up when people are engaging on our platform. Three, expand your reach to find new customers. This is really, make sure we're leveraging the power of the platform, the power of meta, machine learning, right? Are we finding ourselves launching really tight, constrained campaigns, or are we opening it up? Right? Are we letting the system find the people on our behalf? And four, diversify your strategies. Again, we find ourselves focused on one profit center, or being honest about what our needs are, or being honest with ourselves around what sort of we want to drive in terms of the business going into this year. Right? Are there other opportunities? What problems are we trying to solve? Where do we need to drive more revenue? Right? Potentially diversifying across different profit centers. I want to close with a stat that we announced, that Mark Zuckerberg announced in our last earnings call that I thought was important. But we just did a study with the economists over at UC Berkeley, And what they found is that every dollar in the United States where businesses invested on Meta turns into $3.31 in revenue for that US-based business, right? So an incredible little story here in terms of our business. The way we think about it is our business is to help your business. That's the story of today's message. So if nothing else, like I said, I close like the way I started, which is if you have an appreciation for where you need to drive revenue, if you have an appreciation for what support, what problems you're trying to solve, understand that this platform can manage and flex to meet those needs. With that, thank you. I think we've got maybe a little bit of time for Q&A.